Hello everybody, Incon'S here. You guys have been asking for a lot of Season 5 videos to help you out. Things like builds or tier lists, all that kind of stuff. I was waiting for the meta to kind of settle, for the, large patches of we're going to completely change, the way this item works before I came out with these videos, just because I didn't want it to be completely irrelevant after like 1 week, because they decided to completely just throw something out the door or introduce something new. So now that we're settled in, obviously patches will continue to change things, but they should be a little bit more consistent. We maybe see like one big item change at a time, or like one big god change, compared to like the entirety of everything is shaking around. So we're going to be talking about today the generic support build that you can kind of look to be doing on the gods that you're playing for support. I'm just using RDO here as an example. She's a pretty amazing support right now, if not the best support in the game. So, with our starter items, you're almost always looking to start Guardian's Blessing. There are some situations where you can maybe get away with going Warrior's Blessing if you're really thinking that you need it in order to win the lane. Sometimes you need it because you're like, we have a worse fight at level 1, right? So you get Warrior's Blessing and makes your fight better at level 1. Notably, Kabrakan thrives with this, because then you can just bop the wave with your 3, and the minions are doing significantly less damage to you with the 3 reduction, but you're almost always looking at Guardian's Blessing. Follow this up with your tier 1 going into Thebes, your glowing emerald. Cost 600 gold. It's going to give you 100 health and 10 HP 5. It's going to be really nice for you in lane to have that HP 5. Plus, the first item you're going to be really looking to build is going to be Gauntlet of Thebes. And that's going to make it that much cheaper for you. And then right now, I like to finish up with health potions in multi-potions. I don't like to go mana potions. I find that Guardian's Blessing gives you enough mana in the laning phase in order to get your clear and your poke off. So by having the healing potions in the multi-potions, you allow yourself to better box, because you can have both of those potions healing you at the same time. Combine that with your HP 5 from the glowing emerald, not to mention the HP you're getting back from minions dying in lane, and you're actually going to have quite a bit of sustain. Not even including somebody like RDO, who has a heal on her 3 built in. So you're getting so many different sources of healing. That's very strong for the early laning phase. As far as your core item build, you're going to have 2 options right now. You can either look into immediately finishing your Gauntlet of Thebes, depending on your gold that you have on your first back, which you probably won't have enough for. So if you want to go the safer route that allows you to get back and keep going farm, you're going to go right into your boots. There are 3 boots options right now for supports that are viable. The only one I would recommend never getting right now is pen boots, unless you're trolling with your boys, playing like damage Ymir support, go for it. But right now, you're really looking at Travelers, Reinforced, and Shoes of Focus. My number 1 shoe right now is going to be Shoes of Focus. That extra cooldown that you get is immensely helpful on, thank gods like Garb. I mean, literally anybody, all the supports, Kepri, Garb, all these guys that are trying to get those CC abilities out more often. It's also going to give you mana here pretty early. A lot of newer players are probably going to find they're having mana problems on support. But even without going multi-potions, if you go mana potions, you might still find you're having problems with your mana. And that's okay. Shoes of Focus will help you out a lot. That's going to give you like 4 more abilities easily that you can use. You can go Traveler Shoes. I go Traveler Shoes on gods that I feel like need that little bit of extra movement speed to get their engagement off. So this is not like Geb. Geb doesn't need extra movement speed to get his initiation off. He needs Blink, right? So you don't need Traveler Shoes because you're going to go Blink anyway, so you get cooldown boots. I'm talking like the Kepris of the world that need that extra inch to get in range of their root in order to hit it. He's somebody that really likes Traveler Shoes. Somebody like Sylvanas, just to use that movement speed to get in range of either your root or to get away because Sylvanas is so immobile. Stuff like that. And then finally, you have Reinforced Shoes. This is if you feel like you're an immobile god. Sylvanas, once again, really likes reinforced shoes. If you feel like you're going to be getting engaged on a lot, like you're going to be getting CC'd a lot, you can look at their team composition as well. How much CC do they have? How much am I going to benefit from this crowd control reduction? I would tend to only get reinforced shoes on immobile supports that I feel like I'm going to get picked off a lot, like Sylvanas. He'd be kind of like my go-to for reinforced shoes. In order, I would say Shoes of Focus, Traveler shoes, reinforced shoes, for the, in general. RDO, absolutely cooldown boots, absolutely. After that, you're going to be finishing up your Gauntlet of Thebes at this point. I had been playing around a lot with Hide of the Urchin. Hide of the Urchin is absolutely a better item when you first buy it, period. I mean, there is no competition. Gauntlet of Thebes, when you finish this item, is actually terrible. It's really, really bad. 200 health and 15 HP 5 for 2,400 gold is absolutely pitiful stats. When you think about it, you're literally getting 100 more health and 5 more HP 5 compared to the 600 gold that you spent. But it's such a strong item for you as a support once you get your stacks going. And unless you get it so early, so early, it has to be this either your first item before boots or your item directly after boots. It'll take you way too long to get the stacks online. But once you get those stacks online and you give your team that little 10 physical, 10 magical protection aura, it's actually extremely nice and ends up being a great item. And you end up getting these stacks a lot earlier, typically, than you would finish your Hide of the Urchin stacks. If you could consistently get your Urchin stacks to 10, I would say to get it every time over Thebes. But because it's so hard to get those stacks on Urchin, go Gauntlet of Thebes right now consistently. Now, this is where the build, I would say, stops being every single game. Every single game, I would go Guardian's Blessing, basically, into Glowing Emerald, into your Shoes of Focus, into your Gauntlet of Thebes. Like, that's about as normal, as consistent as this build can get. And you already have, like, well, maybe I go a little bit of Warriors on Cabrakan, or maybe I get my, tank boots on Sylvanas. So there's already some options. You actually have a lot of options on supports this year, which is awesome. Your next item, which you're probably going to get 9 out of 10 times here, is going to be Sovereignty. It's very cheap for the stats that it gives you right now. Only 2,100 gold for 250 health, 50 physical protections, not to mention your aura physical protection, so you're actually getting 65 yourself. And of course, now that you're stacking this with Thebes, you're giving your team 25 physical protections, and of course, even more HP 5. The only situation where you don't go Sovereignty here is if I would say they have a 4 magical team. For the most part, you're going to see 3-2 compositions, 3 physical, 2 magical, or 3 magical, 2 physical. Even if they have 3 magical, I would lean towards Sovereignty, because you're probably looking at them having like a mage guardian plus like Freya, and you can even get away with the Sovereignty there, assuming they have like an assassin jungle and like an assassin solo lane, whatever. But for the most part, you're looking at your Sovereignty. If you're not going to go Sovereignty, I would go into Heartward. Heartward's a really good item right now. When you combine all these auras with Gauntlet of Thebes, you're really giving your teams like 30 magical protections, I think 25 physical protections, a ton of HP 5, a ton of MP 5. These are pretty much your standard aura support items. Very strong right now. Heartward Amulet, I would say, is a little bit less mandatory than Sovereignty right now. If you're not going to go Heartward at this point in the game, I would lean towards getting a Talisman of Energy. They recently buffed this item. It gives you 2% movement speed and 2% attack speed and 10 MP5 per stack. Those stacks last 6 seconds, and it stacks up to 5 times. So if you're engaging on a team fight in mid lane, and your AoE abilities kill a wave, you're giving your team 10% movement speed, 10% attack speed, and like 50 MP5. It's extremely strong for the in-lane team fighting. It's great for things like Phoenix Push, where the waves are going to be spawning on you anyway. It's great for Phoenix Defenses, where the waves are coming to you anyway. It works out very well. I actually like it more than Heartward as an item. It's a little bit more expensive, and you're going to get a little bit less defensive stat allocation out of it for your team. But the aggressiveness that you get from this item is so good. Unless you're going against a super heavy magical damage comp, I would recommend getting this Talisman of Energy over Heartwood Amulet. But If you're also going against a really heavy magical comp, it's not a bad idea to get Heartward first and then go into Talisman of Energy, because then you give your team that magical protection boost earlier, but then you still get more magical protections yourself while giving yourself that team fight bonus damage situation. Now, this is a pretty standard build. I would, like I said, don't get the Heartwood Amulet. If you go against a heavy physical team, grab yourself the Talisman of Energy by itself. At this point in your build, you're looking at about 4 to 5 items, depending on if you got both magical defense items. This is where you really get to mix up your build and have options. Really popular option number 1 is straight up Spirit Robe or Mantle of Discord. If you feel like you're getting CC chained and dying a lot, I would lead towards the Mantle of Discord. It's going to give you that pop stun around you, going to help keep you alive. If you're feeling pretty good, you're not really getting engaged on, you just want general damage reduction, Spirit Robe is the go-to. It's going to give you that cooldown. It's going to give you the CCR so you don't actually get CC'd. It's going to give you that passive for the mitigations. Perfect item right now. I lean towards Spirit Robe more than Discord, just because I find that as a support in the late game with this build, most of the time they're not focusing on me. And if they are, that's kind of a win for them to be focusing the support. So that's a great item. Another great situational item at the end here is going to be Emperor's Armor. Phoenix pushes right now are so hard. Talk to any pro player, minor league player, top tier ranked player. Phoenix pushes are hard. You need a lot of communication. You have to decide whether or not you're burning the Phoenix or if you got to fight. The Phoenixes are so hard to hit right now because of the pen changes. They don't take any damage unless you have a wave, and the waves are so easy to kill in the late game. Helps you just kind of focus on fighting their team, not worrying about the Phoenix. You're like, screw it, the Phoenix is barely going to do any damage because it's attacking so slow. Just focus on killing their team. Then we'll worry about the Phoenix. Very strong item here for the late game. Finally, 2 more items that I like in the late game. I actually really like Oni Hunter's Garb right now. If you don't have any CCR yet, it's great to get some online. But its passive is quite strong. It's actually a 15% damage mitigation buff flat. Which for 1900 gold is like crazy cheap. It gives you 60 magical protections. I think it's kind of an underrated item right now. It works best in the late game, where because it's giving you percent mitigation, obviously the more damage somebody's doing, the more percent you're mitigating. So it's definitely a late game item, but it's very strong, situational. And finally, if you want to go aggressive, Pythagorean's Piece is actually a very good support item right now. One of the main reasons is because you'll see hunters right now, in particular, are leaning away from lifesteal a little bit. You'll find them building a lot of Transcendence because it gives so much damage, because it gives that 10% cooldown now, because of the gold nerf on Devo's gloves being harder to get online. You're going to find them building less lifesteal, maybe just an Aussie or a Bloodforge later on in the game. Pythag's Piece gives you 200 HP, which is great. That's awesome. It gives you cooldown, which is great. That's awesome. But most importantly, its passive is incredibly strong. It's going to give your team 12% magical lifesteal and increase their magical power by 30. That's awesome. And it's going to increase their physical lifesteal by 10% and give them 20 physical power. So this is basically helping your team get a little bit of extra oomph out of their lifesteal. As you guys all know, lifesteal is very strong right now, at least on the mage side. Just help them out a little bit more lifesteal. For your physical damage characters, for your hunters, give them a little bit of lifesteal that they're missing because they didn't probably go Devo gloves on their character that they're playing. And so it's actually a very good situational item. Fafnir in particular, because of the way that Coerce works, really loves Pythagorean's Piece. This is the build, guys, that you're looking at for support. Guardian's Blessing into your Glowing Emerald basically every single game. Very minimal situations where I deviate from that. You're super safe doing that every game. Shoes of Focus, very safe doing that every game. Right into your Gauntlet of Thebes. You run this combo right here at the start of every game, and you're consistently going to be like at an 8 or 9 out of 10 on your start all the time just by running this, which is great. After that, like I said, that's when it starts to get mixed up. Most of the time, you're going to head into that sovereignty because they're probably going to have 3 physical. If they don't have 3 physical, help your team out with the heart word into possibly a talisman of energy. You're going to want to get that sovereignty online at some point just because it's so cheap for the stat allocation that you get. And then you'll finish up with your random item of what do we need as a team? Do we need more lifesteal? Are we having a hard time pushing phoenixes? Am I getting focused and I need a spirit robe or a mantle of discord? You're going to have to decide on your own on that last item. I hope this build helps you guys for support. I know a lot of supports are out there struggling. It's not easy to play support right now. You're going to be down levels, but at least you can have a good idea of what build you should be running to keep yourself ahead of the game as best as you can. Hopefully, this build will be pretty consistent for a while. We won't see any major item changes, so we can kind of get everybody on the same page as a support, running the right builds, guys. I will update this build throughout the year as we get item changes, god changes, meta changes that dictate we need to change it. But hopefully, we'll last at least a month or so with this build. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this was helpful, and as always, have a twitchin' day, y'all.
Thanks everybody for watching the video. If you want to watch more content, go ahead and click yourself down in the corner to watch another one of our videos. If you'd like to subscribe to the channel, you can find that right up on there. And if you want to go ahead and buy some sweet merchandise, guys, you can click that right above my head. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, have a twitchin' day, y'all.